Hi traders, this is Senior Account Manager Adam House hosting the Daily European Open for this Thursday, the 17th of August 2017. General advice warning before we begin. The Forex trading involves trading at risk capital. The following education session is not to be treated as personal advice. Forex CT provides general advice only that does not take into account your personal needs or circumstances. Okie dokie. So we had a quite a big move on the market overnight on the Fed meeting minutes, which happened at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning. And we've also had some news around some Trump tweets as well, which are always a favourite of moving the market. No other president at any other time in history has probably been so in love with tweets. And believe it or not, they do move the market in mysterious ways. But it was a day of reversals on Wednesday with several futures markets changing direction during the course of the trading session, mainly due to a political decision by President Donald Trump and mixed US Federal Reserve meeting minutes, as we said before. It's worthy to note that the US dollar responded by erasing all of its early gains to close lower, and we saw a rebound in gold to close higher. So the main reason beyond the volatility, the first wave of volatility hit the markets after President Trump tweeted that he would disband his advisory councils filled with leaders of corporate giants, and this mainly served as a reminder to some that Trump may not have the experience to run a government. Some would say. The second wave of volatility was fueled by the minutes from the Federal Reserve's July meeting that highlighted a split between FOMC members who wanted to stay the course and continue to raise rates, and those members who preferred the Fed to slow down the tightening process. Generally, the sentiment across the board was that most of the members were a little bit concerned about low inflation being a systemic problem. So it's meant basically a meeting of more dovish participants. Now, remember, when we say dovish, we mean less urgency to raise rates across the board. So there might have been a bit more of a dovish stance towards recent decline inflation, and we could really have a look at, the more hawkish FOMC members were worried about risk from a labour market that had already reached full employment and was projected to tighten further. So, there was this kind of disagreement between most of the FOMC members this morning, but most of them did agree on one thing, and that was on the process of reducing the Fed's massive balance sheet. And they said that should begin relatively soon, with some members arguing for a more concrete date to be set. So in their assessment of the economy generally, the FOMC members this morning were largely impressed, especially in the areas of employment and household spending. Fed officials were generally less optimistic about the federal government doing its part to stimulate the economy through fiscal policy. So again, the market might have taken that as a little bit more bearish this morning, and we saw obviously the off-sell of the dollar result and that bullish spike in gold, which obviously coincides with a rise in a decline in the US generally. So just quickly across the board here, we have the remaining economic announcements coming up today. We have the ECB account of the monetary policy tonight at 21:30. Coming out tomorrow at 22:30, we have the consumer price index for the CAD year on year for July at 1.2%, and the University of Michigan business confidence coming out at precisely midnight on Saturday morning. So looking ahead to the economic announcements that have already happened, we had employment data come through earlier today at 11:30. The unemployment rate hit bang on at 5.6% as forecasted, but we had a mild increase in jobs numbers at 27.9k as opposed to the 20k forecast. When that announcement happened, the Aussie did dilly-dally a little bit. Didn't really show much volatility on the announcement, but since then has sort of, maintained a bit of a bullish candle so far today. Trading Central have further targets of 79.95 in extension as we speak, which should be a good target really if you're looking to the bullish side on the market. Again with the euro and also with the pound, We have, the ECB key announcement tonight at 21:30 on the account of monetary policy. And currently, Trading Central have the euro US dollar as a bullish preference with further targets of 1.1835. And also on the Great British Pound against the US dollar, they have targets of 1.2950 as well. So generally speaking, if we're bullish on those pairs, and by rights, obviously the forecast I think for the US dollar would be under pressure. Many traders are aiming for 109.40 and extension. But on a daily time frame, many forecasters are going as low as 108.83 if that dovish sentiment persists amongst the Fed at the moment. Also got a bullish preference on gold as well. Gold again had that rise on the FOMC minutes as discussed. We're looking at a further advance as per TC with that, and we're looking at 12.94 an extension as a target there. ASX has had a pretty impressive run today of late, due to several, key company reports being quite positive. ASX today, the bullish preference on the SPI 200 ASX remains at 5,800. It's currently trading at around about 570, 570.68. Got pretty close there this morning, but it's looking to sort of break out of this range here, this really tight range in which it's been trading. And if it does, it's reasonable to assume the 5,800 and even 5,900 are possible as per TC preference. So looking ahead tonight, we'll be having a look at, further downward pressure. If we see the US sort of, following suit and, decreasing tonight, it might be following on from obviously that that ruffle in the government with Trump's sackings and obviously with his tweets on several key officials. But obviously, the important situation to still take into account would obviously be the North Korea situation and how that's actually affecting gold and US, in tandem with each other. So if we see sort of further developments along, those lines, we could see sort of bullish prospects for gold and probably bearish prospects for the US generally, which happened last week. So in conclusion, folks, if you have any questions about the economic announcements today or anything generally about your trading, please get in contact with the account managers here at Forex Capital Trading. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your attendance, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Thank you very much. Cheers.